What's going on, everyone? So let's take a look at this EVtol, or essentially electric aircraft company. So this one definitely looks very interesting to me, and I want to share my own thoughts with this. They're trying to target $1 trillion market, and obviously that's going to take quite a while. But just remember, before I do get started, that this video is for educational purposes only. Make sure you do your own research. This is not financial advice. And check this out. So here I'm on their website, and you can see sort of a visual of what it potentially looks like. And to my knowledge, at least when I'm filming this, there is not currently a working prototype yet, but they actually plan on releasing that, I believe, within the summer, near that area. So once they do release that, they will be able to check it out even more. But right now, let's just check this out. This is more of a 3D model, just showcasing what it looks like. And this does look quite similar, I think, in the designs of some other US competitors for the electric aircraft space. But you can see here pretty much how it's supposedly going to work. Think of this as a flying taxi, similar to like a drone, except it's pretty much a one that can carry humans. So now you can see from like an aerial view, it's similar to an airplane, almost identical in terms of like the wings, except now you have these little propellers on each side. And I don't know if this is going to be a final design or if they're going to tweak this in the future, obviously once they start mass producing, but it seems like this is what their first version is going to look like so far. Looks nice and clean, but again, obviously it's not technically out there working yet, so we're just gonna have to wait and see, because anyone can make a beautiful looking 3D model rendering, but until we actually see this in real life, then we'll have to wait and see. But let's just go back to the main page now. And now, what's so special about this company? Because I mentioned that there's no prototypes technically available yet. They're not actually flying anyone. So here is the main reason, right? So pretty much they're supposedly merging with the SPAC ACIC. So they're eventually going to take Archer public, and they're going to plan on raising a lot of money for this, which if you've been following the recent few weeks, how many companies are merging together, like CCIV. I mean, you saw the run up for there. Same concept here, pretty much. And you obviously can check more details about it. But here's the current stock price. And obviously, sub 10 pretty much opens and then pretty much rallies up to $16+. And the market's closed right now, so we'll just have to wait what happens once the market opens. But I decided to dive into Archer, see some things about them. And cool thing is, ARC. So if you follow ARC Investments, you can actually scroll down here, and they actually added it, right? Let me see if I can find the symbol right here, ACIC. You can see Atlas Crest, and they put in 385K, and then you can see the valuation 6.2, and that's basically the market value right there. So definitely that's something to check into. So the ARC actually invested in here as well, which they definitely will see some sort of long-term view. Obviously, it's not their biggest holdings, but it's still something that they did look into and added some to their own portfolio. But just keep that in mind. And then here is their Twitter. And I just wanted to show you this because it just gives you a visual, like what's going on with this business, what they have in store, right? Because here they have this actual deal that's supposedly going to be set once in about 2024 is when they start actually delivering on this. But they have in the works a potential $1 billion order from United Airlines. Obviously it says they have it, but technically they still have to deliver actual products that work. And that's just something to keep in mind, because if you're just looking at this from an emotional standpoint, you might see, oh, UA put $1 billion. But in reality, even the founder goes in an interview and states like he has to actually deliver, or else it falls through, right? So I think that's plenty of space. He has 3+ years, give or take, to actually get this completed. But again, we'll have to see during the prototype release how well it actually operates, and then once it goes from there. But that's just one of the major things I wanted to highlight there. And obviously they're trying to go public with a $3.8 billion valuation. So that valuation is already massive. And we can check into the investor presentation. So if you go to their website, you can actually go ahead and get links to this. So let me see if I can show you exactly where. So I think I scroll straight to the bottom, and you can just click on investors. And then pretty much they should have a little PowerPoint presentation. You can download that PDF here. And this will be basically the exact same thing. So I'm not going to bore you and go through this entire thing super slowly, but there's some things I want to just highlight. You can see, the ACIC history, and then, transactions, etc., and some key highlights. But what I want to really focus on is look at a few things in here. So here's the team. Again, you can do due diligence, check out the team, see their actual history. Like this guy is advised on 3.6 trillion transactions, and obviously they have the other members here. This is essentially the Adam, and then you have Brett, which are the CEO and co-founders right there. And then let me scroll down. Here's more of their team, and so you'd actually have to research into these people and see like what they're really good at. But obviously they talk about the markets, so it looks in the trillions. And this is obviously, far out. This isn't, they're not projecting this like in 5 years. They're talking like decades until this starts to be something big, which is, it's a great thing to be conservative and not, over promise. But for short term thinking and people who are just trying to get in and get out, this might not be the best decision because you're pretty much waiting for a market that technically hasn't been proven yet. So that should keep that in mind. And again, they re-highlight the strategic partnership, CE orders, $1 billion plus an additional 500 mil of aircraft. And they state again, like I mentioned earlier, delivery is 2024, so that's like 3 years plus. So if you're not patient, you don't even want to wait for this, then obviously you might be better off looking into something that's much quicker. This is definitely one of those businesses that I see in the future. If it takes off literally and figuratively, it could be massive, but we'll have to wait because it's a long-term play. And then here's just some more team members there. But I want to show you something where it showcases the actual like cost, right? So let's scroll down, way down here at the bottom. And right here, so this is really interesting. And I'll just zoom in. And this is Manhattan and JFK. So if you're in New York and you've run that trip from the airport, Uber, I've done it multiple times. I know it is a hassle. And sometimes, depending on what day you land, it's just insane. But here, let me zoom in. So right now it showcases essentially the cost, the time, and then just emissions, right? So obviously if you're not an electric vehicle, then this is going to be no. But cost to operate pretty much $76. And these are the trip total minutes. So pretty much hour plus. But once you get to helicopter and then we have Archer, they're going to match essentially the time it takes. The difference is helicopter is literally thousands of dollars to do the same trip. And they're staying here, Archer can do it for 50. So that's definitely a very bold prediction in my opinion. I don't know what the actual cost is going to be of each of these aircrafts once they start producing this in the masses. So if they were able to clarify that eventually once they get to that point, that's going to be something interesting to consider. But in terms of this calculation, and they even state that this is going to make them more money than like the typical Ubers. But I have some other, let's say, conflicting ideas on why that could be different. So it says here, right here, they can generate 18x more revenue than a ride-sharing car, right? So like on paper, this looks great, right? So look at the cost per mile. They say it's going to be $3.30. That's obviously a prediction. Average speed, okay, it's much faster. Distance, say it's the same. Time, obviously, the biggest thing you're paying for, I would believe, is just time, right? And trips per day, it states you can do pretty much 15 more than a typical ride share, which in a year that equates to 2.4 mil versus 130 plus. So here is a insight that I'm just trying to consider because I've seen the platforms or the projection designs of what these like Uber taxi, flying drone taxis are going to look like. And based off what I've seen, it seems like the max amount of aircrafts they can fit on like a top roof, it's like maybe 10, let's just say conservatively, or let's just say 20, there's 20 aircrafts on top, right? And that's going to be quite a massive building already, assuming these are, similar size to a helicopter, right? Because when's the last time you've seen 20 plus helicopters next to each other on top of a building? It hasn't been that much. And even if this is on the land, that's still going to be a massive amount of space. So let's just say conservatively, there's like 20, right? You can raise it up to whatever number you want to put, 50, 100. But what I'm trying to picture is how in the world is this going to work if there's multiple companies competing with each other, right? So that's something that I'd say that's definitely a risk factor that I'm considering because right now it looks amazing. And don't get me wrong, if this was working, I'd be using this every single day, versus Uber. Because especially if you've ever taken the like if you ever landed in New York and try to go to like Manhattan or inner city and you try to take Uber, you pretty much have two choices. It's Uber And then if Uber doesn't work, you take Lyft, and obviously if you're vice versa. But regardless, it's pretty much Uber or Lyft. If not, you have to pay premium for like the taxi. But there's usually the separate section, right, for the carpooling ride sharing area. So it's basically two companies and it's only cars. So it's just the same as everything else. You just drive around. So the main thing is imagine there are multiple of these companies in the future, right? Let's just say there's three different ones. I don't know where would they fit, first of all, in terms of making this efficient. And let's say they do create a space in the airports or areas where you can drive up to, take the drone taxi type flights. But then it becomes the matter of how are they not going to collide with each other. And because I don't see how it makes sense to have like hundreds of these flying around in like a little city, because it's just you could easily collide and there's just not enough airspace, at least I think, unless they're all coordinated with the same company, right? Obviously, if it's the same company, it makes sense, but just imagine that these things are flying. And I've looked at other companies like eHang. They talk about their, the aerial, how high they fly, and it's like in the few thousands, like 2K plus, give or take feet, because you're not gonna be flying these 30,000, 50,000 feet in the air like regular airplanes. Like you're gonna be flying this pretty much a height distance that's a little bit above buildings and whatnot, but it's not. It's like helicopter pretty much ranges. So that's something to consider, and definitely someone could share their thoughts on what they think about that. But yeah, this other thing too, right? Let's just say you make more, but I just don't see how this makes sense, at least today, unless they build out the facility. I can see it visually, it'll make more sense to me. But I just don't see how they can pump out crazy amounts of volume in terms of rides without, getting in some sort of conflicts with other flying companies out there, right? Because cars, I mean, as long as you're in traffic, you just move and it pretty much goes and that's it. But when you're flying, it's like, who one is coordinating, that. Two, it's like, where's the space to be? So I have to wait and see. Again, this is something I want to see how they actually structure the design of the actual like place people get picked up. Because based off of the rendering 3D models that I've seen, it's like there's only like 8 on top of the roof. It's like 4 on each side. It's like how are you gonna get volume if you only have like 8 vehicles? Unless they build like hundreds of these rooftops in different areas, then maybe that makes sense. But we'll have to wait and see. Again, that's definitely something that I'm trying to understand. So if someone could send me like a video showcasing like how that would work without running into any other aircraft, definitely let me know. And then other thing is too, they plan on having this manned by actual pilots. So like, imagine they showcase here, right? These are the other competitors, but for this one at least, because in some of the Chinese companies, they're already saying they're going full autonomous EV, and you just control it from a center. I think that technology, I have to wait and see until it actually happens, because that seems quite complex, at least in the current times. And there's so many regulations and just so many different things that we'd have to wait and see. But for at least in America, it seems like, one, the major thing is getting the approval, the regulations. Two is actually producing these aircraft, because I've watched the interviews with Elon Musk and just talks about Tesla and making one prototype. It's fairly easy. You work with your team and pretty much you make one vehicle. But when it comes to doing it over and over with pretty much the exact same accuracy and no different faults, it becomes a problem, especially when you try to mass produce this. Like, I'm trying to think of a simple example, right? For people, I guess this is the simple example I came up with, is pretend your goal is to make a pizza, and that's your prototype, right? That's fairly easy. You get some dough, sauce, cheese, etc., bake it in a little oven, you're done. But now let someone says, hey, can you make 100 pizzas? Well, if you're just at your house, you won't be able to do it efficiently, right? You could, but it's going to take you hours, and it's going to take you a lot of time wasted. But in reality, if you were trying to do it on the mass level, you have to buy the equipment, the giant cooking ovens, dough making, etc. And then you have to order certain things in mass quantities versus going to the store and buying like little individual pieces. So that's definitely something I want to see how would they actually tackle the mass producing part. That's something to consider. And definitely if someone has resources on how they plan on doing it, let me know. But I'm just stating things from like both a pro versus a con as well. And then pretty much that's just like the main overview I wanted to share with you on Archer. It looks dope. I really like the design, and I would definitely use it once it comes out. The only thing is, will this be more efficient, or will this be essentially a failed business model? Because one last thing too people forget is there is underground, there's tunnel, there's no interruption, there's the Hyperloop. And that's essentially a much more efficient model for versus like the cost wise, because you can literally travel hundreds of plus miles, if not more, depending on how far they make these tunnels. That could be a competing business model for this, right? Because if you rather just sit in a little hyperloop, little type train design, and then just sit in there, and 30 minutes later you're in another state, that would feel much more safe and ease versus flying in, so particularly a flying aircraft that essentially still in an industry where we're not 100% sure how it's going to work if something fails. But obviously we have helicopters, we have planes, but this isn't exactly the same thing. So keep that in mind too. But definitely I'm bullish on both markets. I hope these things take off and one of the companies does it so that we can start using it for actual human use. But if you're looking at this from like an investor standpoint, definitely consider the cons, but also look at the potential too, right? Because it looks cool on paper, but it's a long-term play and they actually have to produce before it makes sense. So if you're the person that just holds and doesn't look at it for multiple years, then I'm sure you'll do well. But obviously do your own research and make sure. And if you're the person that's looking for short-term gains, then obviously you have to read into their presentation because it seems like they're doing this in the long run. But here, I'm just going to leave this stock price here. Obviously, it'll go down or up, who knows, but I just want to show this just to leave us at the end, just to see, in a couple years from now, if we go back to this video, what happens to them. And aside from that, if you made it this far in the video, I want to share with you how to get 2 free stocks valued up to $1,850. And all you need to do is go to the description down below, click on that first link, and then sign up for an account. And as long as you deposit $100 or more, you'll receive 2 free stocks valued potentially up to $1,850. And if you use my link, I'll also receive 2 free stocks as well, and that benefits both of us. And aside from that, if you want to see more updates on the market, see more companies going out there, definitely hit that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up, share this with your friends, comment down below your thoughts on Archer and any other drone aircraft type companies, and I'll see you in the next video.